Hey brothers and sisters, it's Francis Santa Rose here, just bringing a word today, just to let you know that there is going to be a webinar tonight, and the old login is the login, the last one you would have had, so you don't have to call me and get a new login. But the best way is to actually type in the number of the meeting. There's a meeting number, and I'm not home, I'm not in my car. I mean, I'm in my car, so I don't have that number. But if you send me an email at F as in Francis Santa Rose, Santa like Santa Claus, Rose like the flower, at gmail.com, I'll send that to you. And I got to hurry up and get home to get ready for the webinar, which is coming up, because I've been at church all this time. I'm just now coming my way home from church, and it was really, really interesting what happened at church today. So church ends, right? Church ends at like 12:30, and I'm going to leave, and something is telling me, don't go, don't leave, stay. And they were going to watch a movie or something like that there. I don't usually like to do that. Got my Sundays. I usually do a case on Sunday, right? I've all these cases that I have scheduled, and I didn't really have a case scheduled today, but I have people that are trying to reach me. I figure I was going to just go home and email somebody and say, hey, I'm available, or text them and say, hey, I'm available, you want to get working on your case? We can get working on your case. Okay, fine. But I felt compelled to stay. I went outside, actually got in my car, and I sat there, and I was just sitting there in my car, and I didn't feel like I was supposed to go. I don't know why. So I got out of the car and I went back in, and they're all kind of like sitting there waiting to start the movie. They were actually going to make some food, and I'm just sitting there on this chair, not really knowing what I'm supposed to do or what I'm doing there. I'm just sitting there, and a couple of people come up and talk to me, and I'm just wondering, why am I here? What am I doing? It was strange, y'all. It was just so strange. So I get up and I walk to the door like I'm leaving, and something tells me, don't go. So I walk out the door and turn around and walk back in. I'm standing in the doorway. I'm just standing there. I'm like, what? What am I doing here? What? I want to go home. I want to eat lunch. I want to get, on with my day. I don't have any days off anymore. My life doesn't have a day off. And Sunday is actually my busiest day of all, between church and doing cases and the webinar at night. I'm going from early morning till late at night. So I'm standing there, and I see these two girls get up with purpose, and immediately I heard the Holy Spirit say them. And they start walking around and kind of turn like they're not coming towards me, but they're just walking around a table, and I know they're coming to me, and they come over to me and go, are you the guy? And I said, before they can even finish, I said, I'm the guy. I knew it. Whether they looked at me like, huh? Like, yeah, I'm the guy. What do you got? Like, we got this, and she's got this, and I got this, and we got that, this and that. And I could tell this is not just going to be a quick prayer case. This is a case. So it's okay, come on, let's go where we can have a little privacy, because it was kind of busy and they were going to start a movie there. So we walked down the hallway a little bit, found a little cove where we could slip in. I said, okay, you first, tell me your story. And she starts telling me this horror story of what is going on in her life with her, and between her and her husband, and this stuff that is just so crazy. I'm like listening to this stuff, and when she finishes, the other woman takes over, and she's got a horror story all her own. And I'm like, this cannot be handled here. We need a room. We got to go someplace quiet where we can sit down, because it's going to take a little while. It was a case, y'all. I got a case. Right? It's 4 o'clock. I just finished. I started it at 12:30. 12:30 to 4. 1 o'clock. 1 to 4. It was a 3-hour. I spent 3 hours on this too. So we get let into the children's room. The children are all gone. It's empty now. Everybody's home. So we're sitting in there, and proceeded to go through the altar of love. I went through with him the list. I said, I need you to write me a list of all. The way I do it now is, give me a list of anything demonic where you've let something in. You had your palm read. You're playing with tarot cards or Ouija boards, or that. You know what's really what I've found lately is watching those paranormal shows where you know, ghost hunters and stuff like that. Those are letting in demons too. A lot of people being affected by that, and just a lot of stuff like that. They had an entire page full. Well, actually, one of them didn't have too much. One of them only had a few things. The other one had a lot. Oh, she said, "Oh, and by the way, I sold my soul to the devil." You know, it's like, hello. She goes, "Is that a problem?" It's like, well, it needs to be dealt with. That's for sure. So, and then I said, okay, now the next would be we're going to deal with, because what the Lord has showed me, what the Lord has kind of showed me is that the more powerful spirits are the ones that come in through those things like Ouija boards and things like that. They're really powerful. The next most powerful are sexual sins. They let in demonic spirits that are extremely powerful, and then drugs and alcohol and stuff like that. You know, but so I said, okay, list for me. I said, look, it's weird for me. I don't really want to know their lives. I don't want to know what they're doing. I don't want to know what they've been into. I don't want to know. And I told them, I said, look, because they're there from the prison, right? They've been let out for that day to go to church. So they're going back to prison. These girls are pretty smart, though. I mean, they're, you know, not thugs or anything. They're not gangbangers or anything like that. They're just, you know, people that made some bad choices. So, I'm telling them, you know, look, I don't really want to know your life or your business, but it has to be dealt with. So if you don't tell me, and let's get it out so we can pray about it, take authority over it, then you got to do it on your own. And they were both like, oh no, we're past the point of being embarrassed. we'll just tell you everything. It's like, that means I got to hear everything. You hear what I'm saying? And I'm not perverted. I don't want to hear that stuff. I don't want to hear that stuff. But, you know, these girls need to get delivered. Their list. They did 3 columns on a regular ruled, like school ruled notebook paper. Both sides of the pages completely filled with every deviant activity, thought. Look, I've been around for a while, and I've done a lot of these cases, and I've heard some stories. These girls were the worst I've ever seen, and they were bad. They were really bad. And I'm looking at this list going, oh my gosh. And they're just like, let's go, let's do it. So, you know, we just started praying, and, you know, first of all, we did confession. We confessed. We asked forgiveness for all that demonic stuff, anything that was demonic, and all that sexual activity. We confessed and asked forgiveness for it. And that takes, what that does is it takes the authority away from the spirit that it was attached to it. Once the authority is taken away, that thing doesn't have to return. Like, for instance, when people engage in the same activity over and over and over again, you may have repented for it, but if you don't take authority and expel that spirit, it's there to keep dragging you into it. That's why you keep doing that behavior over and over and over and over again. That's why you can't break free from that sin. That's why that thing keeps dragging you back like a dog returning to his vomit, because that spirit is still there. So what the Lord told me was, what he showed me was this. He said, you have to confess it. You have to ask forgiveness for it, and then when you do, you take its authority to stay, because you could be rebuking that spirit all day long, but if you haven't confessed it, if you haven't asked forgiveness for it, it has the legal right to stay. So once you confess that thing, you take its legal right, you take the authority away, then you can expel it. Now it's different. Instead of it dragging you into sin, it's got to come up and knock on the door and see if you let it in. It's a whole different deal. You know, it's got to present itself to you, and it doesn't have the same hold over you that it used to have, where you were almost compelled to do it, and actually couldn't stop it. You know, it's like, you know, I know you have a free will, but you know, sometimes it's just so overpowering that you can't stop that behavior, because it's in there and has the legal right to be in there. So once you confess it, you take its authority away. Then when you bind it and cast it out in the name of Jesus, then it's got to get permission to come back in. completely different. It's completely different. The hold over you is different. You know, can people still follow? Yeah, you can. But the thing about it is, remember, we have authority over this now. You know, you don't want to give up your superpower. You don't want to give that thing up. It's different now. Everything changes. Everything changes. So, and we're going to be talking about it today. I may spend, today might be the last day we actually spend on the altar of love before we'll go into different areas. I want to start, I'm not that I'm getting off the altar of love. I'm not going to get off of it at all. It is phenomenal. It is awesome. It is fantastic. But I'm thinking about branching from the altar of love into different areas that come back to it. So, so they got completely healed, you know, completely delivered, completely restored. They weren't even the same people. And you know, the thing about it is, it's like when you finally get them to understand their identity, that they're children of God, you can see their demeanor change immediately. Then when you tell them their authority, who they really are in God, what power they have available to them, they're like, oh my gosh. And then they almost, you know, it's like going through the 5 stages of death, you know. First you're angry, then, you know, you're disappointed in yourself that you've wallowed in mediocrity all that time, and how come I didn't know this? And then you get mad for that because no one ever taught it to you. And, you know, it's just, and then you're overjoyed because you now know you're a Superman, the devil's Batman, and he's got nothing. He's got nothing. So, it's been really cool. It's been great. I have to admit, it was nice watching those girls get delivered. They got completely freed. They weren't even the same. You know, the thing about the altar of love is you can't go back to who you used to be. I did a case last night. I did a guy, and he was just full of self-loathing. I'm so useless. I'm so worthless. I'm like a dog returning to my vomit. I know what I want to do. I always go back and do it. I've been going through this 30 years. I've been doing this. You know, I never seem to get out of it. And I would constantly have to stop him, interrupt him, and say, stop. Before those words come out of your mouth, stop. But no, don't say it. You know, you got to trust me. Let me get to the end. When I finally got to the end, the lesson about words, and he goes, oh, that's why you wouldn't let me talk. I was like, yeah, I wasn't just being rude. I was stopping you from condemning yourself. You know, you've got to watch your words. You got to watch your words, and it's tough to do. It's helpful when you have a partner, somebody that can help you and remind you, hey, watch you restructure that sentence. You know, say it differently. So I will see you all in a couple of hours. The webinar is tonight. We're going to stay on the altar of love a little while longer. God gave me some more revelation this week. Just help me see stuff differently, a little more clearly, and I used it all week long and delivered a lot of, you know, God delivered a lot of people from some crazy bondages, and you know, those 2 girls today were set free. That was so cool. So anyways, I just wanted to say that's what's happening with me. It's 4 o'clock on Sunday afternoon, and we'll be doing our webinar in about 2 hours. Talk to you later. Bye.